You've pictured it, don't pretend you haven't. The casket, the flowers, the people standing around crying, or worse, not crying. You've rehearsed your own death in your head like it's a movie scene, and you've done it more than once, maybe more than 100 times. And the strangest part, you don't find it disturbing anymore. It feels almost comfortable, like slipping into a familiar daydream you never asked for but can't seem to stop returning to. And that right there should terrify you, because what you're doing to yourself is far more dangerous than you think. Let me describe something and tell me if it doesn't feel like I'm reading your mind. You're lying in bed at night, maybe you're tired, maybe you've had a long day, and out of nowhere your brain starts constructing the scene. You see the room, you see the faces. You start mentally scanning through every person you know, and you're watching their reactions, who's devastated, who shows up late, who doesn't show up at all. You start writing eulogies in your head, imagining what people would say about you. And then, this is the part you'd never admit to anyone, you start judging whether their grief is enough, whether they'd really miss you, or whether they'd move on by the following week and forget you ever existed. Sometimes you imagine the details so vividly that you can almost hear the music playing. You've picked the songs. You've thought about what you'd want to wear. You've even imagined someone specific breaking down, and when you picture that, you feel something warm, something that almost resembles comfort. And afterward, when the fantasy fades and you're just staring at the ceiling again, you feel hollow, empty. Like you just experienced something important, but you can't explain what it was or why you keep going back to it. You've never told anyone about this because how do you even say it out loud? Hey, I keep imagining my own funeral and I kind of enjoy it. That sounds broken. That sounds like something's wrong with you. So you keep it locked away and you assume you're the only one doing it. But you're not even close. Millions of people do this regularly, and almost none of them understand why. Here's what should unsettle you. This isn't just some random quirk of your imagination. Your brain isn't glitching. It's not boredom and it's not morbid curiosity. There's a specific psychological reason you keep returning to this scene, and once you understand it, you'll never look at those fantasies the same way again. Because they're not about death at all. They never were. And the fact that you thought they were, that's exactly what's been keeping you stuck. Your mind has been using your own imaginary funeral to solve a problem it doesn't know how to solve any other way. It's been running this simulation on repeat, night after night, like a program stuck in a loop. And every time it runs, it's searching for something. Something you're not getting in your waking life. Something you're starving for so badly that your subconscious had to literally kill you off just to find it. What you're actually doing when you imagine your funeral is testing whether you matter. That's it. That's the entire engine behind the fantasy. You're not fascinated by death. You're desperate for evidence that your existence has weight. That if you disappeared tomorrow, the world would feel the whole. That the people around you would ache in your absence. That they'd realize too late how much you meant. That they'd finally say the words they never said while you were still here. This is what psychologists connect to something called significance seeking, a deep, primal need to feel like your life counts for something. And when that need goes unmet in your daily reality, when you feel overlooked or undervalued or invisible, your brain starts manufacturing scenarios where your significance becomes undeniable. And what scenario makes your significance more obvious than your own death? Nothing. Because death is the one thing that forces people to stop, pay attention, and acknowledge what they lost. So your brain keeps going back to that well. It keeps staging your funeral because that's the only place where it can guarantee you'll be seen. The only place where people will say how much you meant to them. The only place where your value is spoken out loud without hesitation. And every single time you replay that scene, you're not being morbid, you're self-soothing. You're giving yourself the emotional recognition that no one in your real life is giving you. And you're getting it from fictional grief because you don't know how to ask for real love. But here's where it turns on you. Because this fantasy doesn't heal anything, it deepens the wound. Every time you imagine your funeral and feel that brief wave of warmth, you're training your brain to associate your own absence with emotional fulfillment. Read that again. You are literally conditioning yourself to believe that the only version of you that truly matters is the dead version, the one people mourn, the one people miss, not the living, breathing version sitting here right now. And that's where it gets dangerous, because over time this pattern starts to distort how you see yourself and how you move through the world. You start pulling back from people, not dramatically, not in ways anyone would notice, but slowly, quietly. You stop reaching out. You stop expressing what you need. You start watching from the edges, almost collecting evidence that no one cares enough because the fantasy has already told you the answer. They'll only care when you're gone. And now you're living your actual life through the lens of a funeral that hasn't happened, measuring every relationship by a standard that only exists inside your head while you're pretending to be dead. The worst part is you start to resent people for failing a test they don't even know they're taking. You're angry that no one sees you, but you've never shown them where to look. You're heartbroken that no one says the right thing, but you've never told them what you need to hear. And so the loop continues. You feel invisible. You imagine your death. You feel temporarily seen. The feeling fades. You feel invisible again. And the cycle pulls tighter and tighter until it becomes the only emotional rhythm you know. But here's the part no one talks about, and this is the thing that will stay with you long after you close this screen. The funeral fantasy isn't really about other people's grief. It's about yours. You're not mourning a future death. You're mourning a life you feel like you're not fully living. You're grieving the version of yourself that you know is in there somewhere but can't seem to reach. The one who is confident and loved loudly and didn't need to imagine dying just to feel like they mattered. The tears you imagine at your funeral, they're your own. You're crying for yourself, but you've disguised it as other people's sadness because that feels safer than admitting the truth, that you're in pain right now while you're alive and you don't know how to make it stop. The funeral isn't a prediction, it's a confession. It's your mind's way of screaming that something needs to change, not after you're gone, but right now, today, while you're still here and breathing and capable of being seen for real. You built a fantasy where the whole world finally pays attention to you, but the person who needs to pay attention to you first is you. So tonight, when the lights go off and your brain starts setting the scene again, the flowers, the faces, the music, I want you to recognize it for what it really is. Not a dark fantasy, not a glitch, a cry for significance from someone who forgot they were allowed to ask for it while still alive. You don't need a funeral to prove you mattered, but you might need to start living like you believe that.